Trade policy is incredibly important to me and my district and my constituents. I represent a heavy agricultural district and a manufacturing district whose jobs and economic successes rely on market access around the world and opportunities to send our great American products all across the globe. Knowing that, I don't think it should be a surprise to anyone here that I've been incredibly frustrated that another year has passed without kind of a proactive, substantive policy on trade and progress on enforceable trade agreements from the Biden administration. I know you, Ambassador Tai, you were in the Senate yesterday or maybe the day before the Senate Finance Committee, and I know there was frustration over there. There was a Politico article yesterday. It said Ambassador Tai plays defense as Senate rips into trade agenda. In that article, it says, senators on both sides of the aisle criticized Ambassador Tai for not initiating trade agreements with foreign partners, opting instead for frameworks that lack the same market access provisions and enforcement mechanisms as traditional pacts. And, you know, we've talked about this a little bit before, Ambassador Tai, but as we sit here today, 2 years into this job, we don't have an FTA with the UK. We don't have a free trade agreement with Kenya. We don't have an FTA with Taiwan. We have no request to Congress for TPA. We continually allow China to take advantage of our IP at the WTO. And we have this issue with allowing Europe to set the playing field on digital to the disadvantage of U.S. businesses and workers. So those are just a few things that I think express my collective frustration and others. And as a member of the Trade Subcommittee, and I'm also a member of the new Select Committee on China, which has raised awareness in a bipartisan way that what we see every day in the Indo-Pacific region is the growing threats of China, and considering that, having really an insufficient trade engagement in that region, I believe is unacceptable. And I know you mentioned IPEF, and as I look at IPEF today, I believe the framework is actually getting weaker. Just take the digital pillar as an example. USTR has chosen to engage in a framework that lacks tangible policy and avoids congressional consultation or approval, and I'm open to hear your views on that. And I worry that we are not countering or providing strong enough alternative to the growing pressure of non-market economies. Instead of increasing U.S. leadership in the Indo-Pacific region, countering China's influence, and leaning in on opportunities like digital trade to set global rules and standards that would put countries like China at a disadvantage, we are missing an opportunity to use trade as an offensive tool. And so I mention those things, again, as we look at every conversation as part of the Select Committee on China, when we talk to our like-minded allies in the Indo-Pacific region, whether it's Japan, whether it's South Korea, whether it's Australia, is they're craving our leadership economically. And I guess, express my frustration and my concerns about 2 years in, and we've not made any progress on any of these things. So with that, I'd love to hear your specific ideas or comments on IPEF and whether it prevents real economic and substantive alternatives to China's pressure in the Indo-Pacific region.
It's good to see you, Mr. LaHood, let me say a couple things before I get to your specific question on IPEF. I hear your frustrations, and I think that in your frustrations, I'd like to make 2 points. One is you are seeing a key part of our trade agenda, which is that it is not the traditional trade agenda. And that is out of a recognition that a lot of the challenges that we are facing today, whether it is supply chain challenges, whether it is the challenges that we are facing from non-market economy practices, like those from the PRC, to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, that a lot of these have roots in a traditional trade approach that have brought us to where we are today. So yes, we are not pursuing traditional fully liberalizing trade agreements because we see those as part of the problem that we are trying to correct for. So your frustrations are affirming that, yes, we are not pursuing a traditional trade agenda. But what I would like to point out to you, and I'd be delighted to spend more time with you as well, is to have you see those things that we are doing, that we are putting forward a trade agenda to try to correct for exactly some of those challenges that you have highlighted, especially with respect to non-market economic policies and practices that have really made the playing field extremely tilted, and that we are going to have to adapt to respond to for as long as those practices are there. So I'm delighted that you are, as a member of the Ways and Means Committee. I think that there are two of you who are also on the China Select Committee. I am looking for an opportunity to come up to brief that committee and to get to know all of you better, to talk about some of the economic pieces of this. Let me get to the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. You are absolutely right. Our partners in the region are thirsting for engagement with us on economic matters. That is what we are bringing through the framework, including through the digital engagement. We have got very robust, very enthusiastic participation from 13 partners in the region, 12 of whom are actively engaging with us through now 2 rounds of negotiations. And I'm happy to spend more time with you there as well. But our vision is for an economic engagement in the Indo-Pacific that is, first of all, durable and well supported here at home. And second of all, that promotes the shared interests that we have with all of our partners there around adapting to a very disrupted global economy that will bring more resilience, more sustainability, and inclusiveness to all of our economies by working together. And I'd be delighted to spend more time with you and explain how what we are doing here connects with those goals.
Well, I'm out of time. I would just appreciate your willingness to meet with the Select Committee on China on this. The last point that I would make is what the CCP fears the most is bipartisan support, engagement by the Congress in the Indo-Pacific region. We look forward to working with you on it. Thank you.
Ms. Sanchez is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Smith and Ranking Member Neal, for the opportunity to discuss the Biden administration's 2023 trade agenda. And I want to thank you, Ambassador Tai, for returning once again to brief us about